Helen Norris is the VP and CIO at Chapman University, where she leads technology strategy for Chapman. Helen's role includes supporting the overall goals and mission of the university with IT. Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, David.
Thank you. So Helen, can you tell us about Chapman University and also a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm the CIO at Chapman University. Chapman is a mid-sized private university in beautiful Orange County, California. And so it's in a lovely location. We have about 10,000 students at Chapman. We're what you might think of as a traditional university. Most of our students are right out of high school. They come for a 4-year in-person experience. Some of the programs that we're well known for, we have a really great film school. Our film school is very highly ranked. It's, fifth or sixth in the world. It's very highly selective. So students who apply to get into the film school, the acceptance rate is pretty low. And we also have we have a great business school. We've also recently made some moves into the health sciences. So we have a lot of health sciences programs like pharmacy. And finally, we're opening a school of engineering this year.
That's great.
And for myself, I've been working in IT for a long time, longer than I want to admit. And I worked, I'm actually an immigrant. I'm originally from Ireland. And I lived in Germany and moved to the US a long time ago, worked in kind of corporate America in a variety of IT roles. I moved to working in IT and higher education in 1997. I went to work at UC Berkeley. I've worked at the UC system and the Cal State system in a variety of management or leadership roles in IT until I came here to Chapman. So I would say, I'm an IT person, really focused on higher ed IT.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So in the higher ed space, we all know that you guys have had to make some pivots. What were some pivots from the process standpoint to make sure you're running business as usual?
Sure. And, as I mentioned, Chapman is what we think of as a pretty traditional university. We don't have a big or we didn't pre-pandemic. We didn't have a big, investment in kind of online learning. Our students, we have a high price point, and our students come because they value that classroom experience. We have small classes and they value the personal interaction with the faculty. Initially, our president just kind of announced that we would have to close our doors and go to remote learning and teaching. And also, so that was the biggest thing for us because we had previously really been, 95% in the classroom teaching. We're going to have some students back on the campus on Monday. And we want to bring students back in a safe way. So we use data to manage that process.
Tell us, did you have to build this system in-house, or was it more a buy? Tell us a little bit about the technology stack to enable that data.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that particular system, in fact, I was talking with one of my colleagues about it yesterday. We just never expected it, right? It's not like we did a traditional approach of what are our requirements and let's do an RFP or let's buy something. Initially, we're like, okay, well, we have to have this screening tool, okay, and we have to have this training tool. So what we chose to do is leverage tools that we had in place. We were moving to a new learning management system, so we use that for the training. We have a survey tool that we use that our faculty use in research. We use it pretty broadly, so we have a real depth of knowledge of that tool. So we use that for the screening. For the validating that a person took a test. I know this is going to sound silly, but student ID cards are pretty pretty heavily used in universities. So we
Yeah.
have a swipe system that a person walks up and swipes their card and it records that they've been someplace. That's what we used for testing. So we used, for the most part, we used existing systems, and our data warehouse team pulled the data together and built dashboards built on the data. We have a couple of little pieces that we developed ourselves, to make it a little bit easier to track some things. But for the most part, we used tools in place. We consolidated the data. I'm not saying that if we'd known how big this was going to get at the beginning, we might have done something a little bit different.
Great that you were able to be resourceful during this time and
Mhm.
leverage existing infrastructure that you already had. Did you have any decisions on cloud? You talked a little bit about data warehouse. Did you guys
Mhm.
already have a data warehouse in place? Tell us a little bit about that data infrastructure that you had.
Yeah, we do. We already had a data warehouse in place and so in fact I mentioned sources of data there, but they also built on some of the data that we already have in the data warehouse, whether it's student data or data around our faculty and staff, demographic type data or anything like that. Our data warehouse, it's interesting. It's currently on prem, and we did have projects scheduled for the year, but then the pandemic hit and the entire data warehouse team was really redirected to work on that.
Now, as the CIO of a higher education, you're in that industry, you're in
Mhm.
that space, Chapman University. How many students do you guys have overall?
Almost 10, between 9 and 10,000.
So fairly large
Yeah.
university.
Mhm.
When things return back to normalcy, what are some opportunities you anticipate where technology will play a role?
That's a really interesting question. And I think, for several months, we were so focused on, you know, we've just got to survive this. We've got to support people. We've got to be able to do teaching. We've got to be able to do our business. And in fact, I used to joke not even that long ago saying, oh my God, I haven't had a strategic thought in like 8 months because I'm just focused on keeping things running here. Right. But one thing that we're really hoping to do, and we've kicked off some uh, we've kicked off an initiative or an effort to do this on the teaching side, is to look at what we've learned from this remote experiment, I guess, for want of a better word, and figure out what it is we want to bring forward. And so we have a small group working with faculty, working with some researchers to figure out, to help us look at it in an intentional way and figure what we can do kind of going forward. There are things that are never going to go back, right?
Right.
We we do want students in the classroom, and but we're always there's always going to be a demand now for the Zoom technology. That's going
Right.
to be there. The other thing that's interesting is events, and I think we are all tired of Zoom events, and we want to have in-person events, but there's still going to be a substantial number of events that continue in a virtual way or in a hybrid way. So, for example, our president does a State of the University address every year. Normally, he does it, and we have a really nice um, y- 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 uh, center, a really nice, and it's called the Musco Center for the Arts. It holds about 1,000 people, a little over 1,000. Normally, he does that. This year, obviously, he did it virtually. He did it at the Musco Center on the stage, but I think he reached 6 or 7,000 people. So,
That's
we're not going
great.
to walk away from that. We're going to continue to do some of those things. So we want to take the approach, though, of really intentionally evaluating what has been good and what hasn't been good. And there are things we've done that just, haven't worked as well. And so
Yes.
some things we've even stopped already. So, I think it's really about looking at it, talking to, especially on the teaching and learning side, talking to the faculty, talking to the students. On the workflow side, as I said, a lot of our processes had been online, but we did add, some electronic signature. Obviously, we're never going to go back from that, right?
That's great.
We're not going to go back. I kind of joke, I was like, can I run around the campus and take away all the printers before everyone comes back? Because we can electronically sign things now. And so, those kinds of things I think are going to just continue.
That's definitely great opportunities. And I think even like what you said earlier, perhaps the data side of things, which can
Yeah.
drive some of those decisions
Yeah.
on
Hmm.
what worked and what didn't, and continue to push
Hmm.
that. I mean, even another interesting point you make here is also some of the strategic initiatives, which you don't think of that as a CIO initiative, but now you're able to strategically look at costs, look at the results
Hmm.
and the outcomes that the investments have produced,
Right.
and make some more meaningful decisions that are going to be
Hmm.
better for the future, right?
Yeah.
Any you being a CIO and kind of being in the industry for this large amount of time,
Hmm.
the duration that you've served in this industry, any last advice kind of for perhaps CIOs in similar spaces, that what would you say to them? Like, what would your words of advice, or if you were to offer some learnings from your experiences?
My experiences in general, or
Yeah, in
yeah,
general, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the things I say to, and um, to other CIOs or other people who are aspiring to be CIOs. And obviously, also I'm a woman CIO, and there are relatively few. Unfortunately, there continue to be relatively few of us. So I often find myself in a situation where I'm giving advice to maybe women who want to be CIOs. So some of and men, but a lot of times women seek me out. Kind of makes
Absolutely,
sense, I guess.
yes.
I think in this industry, and I don't think it's unique. I think it's true in every industry. I think relationships are the most important thing. And so, when I came to Chapman, I've been at Chapman almost 7 years. I think there was a legacy view of the IT group, as we're in the background, we're almost part of the plumbing, I guess, so we're back office function. And one of the things that I intentionally did was move us away from that. So my goal over the last 7 years I've been here has been to build relationships with the administration, with the faculty, with the deans, with the students. And I think that is one of the reasons that my team had such success during the pandemic. Because, for example, I mentioned even a little thing like this. It was hard to supply chains. It was hard to buy stuff.
Right.
Um, and universities are sometimes we're thought of. We have some bureaucracy, but the fact that we have a strong relationship with our CFO really helped us in getting things done that we needed to get done. The relationships that we've had with the deans and with the faculty meant that we could come to the faculty and say, tell us what you need, and really have success from there. So I think the most important thing for a CIO to do is to build relationships, and to really work on that. The other thing that I think has been very important, as a leader, is it's always important to take care of your team,
Right.
and it's even more important in this environment. And it's hard to and it's hard to do because you're physically removed from them. So I've often heard in the past people say, well, I have an open door policy. Anyone on my team can come see me. That's not enough. You have to be intentionally
Intentional.
reaching out to your team. And so finding ways to check in on your team, make sure that your team is okay. Put yourself out there, ask the questions, share the information, and be visible. I think in the workplace, when we're in person, if you're fortunate enough to, have your staff physically close to each other, you can be visible. Uh, but you have to really work at being visible in this environment. So, I do a weekly check-in with my entire team. uh, in fact, I kind of gotten to the point where I thought maybe it was, maybe we don't need to do it every week because I don't actually have enough to say. But, people really wanted it every week because I think they want that opportunity to interact with me and with each other. We do things like we share photos in the chat. What did you do this week? Who has the best picture of a sunset? Because who's got the best picture of a beach? Because this is California. And so those are the things. It's all about, I know it's a technical, we run IT, but really your success is all on the non-technical stuff. It's all on the collaboration, the relationships, and the leadership.
That is just phenomenal advice. I mean, so insightful there, coming from you. So I really do appreciate that. Like, we always talk about people, process, technology
Hmm.
in digital
Hmm.
transformation.
Yeah.
And the first word is people in that. So on
Hmm.
that note, Helen, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Really
Well,
appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.